9-year-old Rachel gripped her dead mother's necklace, watching her father about to marry a woman who wanted to kill him. The wedding hall was beautiful, white flowers, sparkling lights, happy guests. But Rachel's heart was pounding. She had discovered Clara's terrible secret, and this was her last chance to save Daddy's life. The pastor smiled. If anyone has a reason why these two should not be married, speak now or forever hold your peace. Rachel stood up, her small voice cutting through the silence like a knife. Stop. Daddy, please don't marry her. She wants to kill you. The room exploded in gasps and whispers. Clara's sweet smile vanished, showing the evil underneath. But Rachel didn't care. She had to save the only parent she had left. Hello everyone, welcome to our story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. As a 9-year-old girl without her mother, Rachel had learned to be stronger than most kids her age. She had been only 8 when Mary, her mother, died from cancer, leaving her to help her broken father put their lives back together. The grief was scary, but Rachel knew Daddy needed her. Rachel had to grow up fast. She learned to make her own breakfast when Daddy Peter forgot to eat. She reminded him about parent-teacher meetings and helped him figure out how to braid her hair for school. It was hard being the one to take care of things, but she did it because she loved him. She'd seen it in Daddy's eyes, the way he still looked at Mama's empty chair at dinner, the quiet moments when he thought she wasn't watching and tears would roll down his face. But Rachel was brave, just like her mother had taught her to be. She would hug Daddy when he looked sad and tell him funny stories from school to make him smile. But as the months passed, Rachel began to notice something that worried her. Daddy was so lonely and sad that sometimes he forgot she was there. He would stare at nothing for hours, and Rachel would have to say his name 3 times before he heard her. She was only 9 years old, but she felt like she was taking care of a grown-up instead of the other way around. Rachel missed her mama terribly, but she was also scared about Daddy. She remembered Mama's last words about taking care of him, and she tried her best every single day. That's why, when Daddy met Clara at the grocery store in downtown, Rachel wanted to be happy for him. Clara was pretty and made Daddy laugh again. For the first time in a year, he started singing in the car and planning fun weekend trips to the park. But from the very first moment, Rachel felt something cold and wrong about Clara. Clara's smiles looked fake to Rachel, like the mean kids at school who were nice to the teacher but nasty when no one was looking. When Daddy wasn't watching, Clara's eyes would turn hard and scary. Rachel tried to tell herself she was just being jealous. Maybe she didn't want anyone to take Mama's place. But deep in her heart, she remembered her mother's last words, "Trust your feelings, baby girl. If something feels wrong, pay attention." And everything about Clara felt very, very wrong. Within 6 months of meeting at the grocery store, Daddy proposed to Clara right there in their small apartment. Rachel watched from the top of the stairs as Clara said yes, jumping up and down with fake excitement. But when Clara thought no one was looking, Rachel saw her real face, cold, mean, and calculating. That's when Rachel knew she had to protect her father. She had no idea how dangerous Clara really was, or how brave she would have to be to save the only parent she had left. The morning after Daddy proposed, Rachel woke up to the smell of pancakes. Real pancakes, not the frozen ones she had been making for breakfast. She hurried to the kitchen and found Clara at the stove, flipping golden pancakes like she owned the place. "Good morning, sweetie," Clara sang, her voice too cheerful for the early morning. "I thought I'd make us a special breakfast to celebrate." Daddy sat at the table with the biggest smile Rachel had seen since before Mama got sick. "Isn't Clara wonderful? She's going to take such good care of us." Rachel sat down slowly. The pancakes smelled delicious, but something about seeing Clara in Mama's kitchen, using Mama's pan, made her stomach feel tight. "These are Mama's favorite," Rachel said quietly, looking at the heart-shaped pancakes on her plate. Clara's smile flickered for just a second. "Well, now they can be our favorite too. We're going to be a family after all." But the way Clara said family made it sound like a bad word. After breakfast, Clara pulled out a thick magazine full of wedding pictures. "Look at all these beautiful dresses. And flowers. And cakes. We're going to have the most amazing wedding." Daddy leaned over the magazine, pointing at different pictures. "What about this one? Or this one? Everything looks so perfect." Rachel watched Clara's face as she looked at the pictures. Most brides in movies looked happy and dreamy when they talked about weddings. But Clara looked like she was planning something else entirely. Her eyes were sharp and focused, like she was solving a math problem. "I want everything to be perfect," Clara said, and the way she said perfect made Rachel's skin feel cold. Absolutely perfect. That afternoon, while Daddy was at work, Clara stayed at their apartment to plan wedding details. Rachael was supposed to be doing homework in her room, but she kept hearing Clara talking on the phone. "Yes, everything is going exactly as planned," Clara said in a voice that was completely different from her sweet, sing-song voice. This voice was hard and mean. "The wedding is in 3 weeks. After that, it should only take a few days." Rachael crept closer to the kitchen door, her heart beating fast. "Don't worry about the kid," Clara continued. "She's too young to cause any real problems. And Peter trusts me completely. He's so grateful that someone loves him again, he'll believe anything I tell him." The way Clara said Daddy's name made Rachael feel sick. It wasn't the way someone says the name of someone they love. It was the way someone says the name of someone they want to trick. "Just make sure everything is ready on your end, Jackson," Clara said. "Once I'm his wife, the insurance money will be easy to get. And this house will be worth a lot when we sell it." "Insurance money?" Rachel's hand started to shake. Why would Clara be talking about insurance money? And who was Jackson? "I have to go," Clara said suddenly. "The kid might be listening." Rachael quickly ran back to her room and pretended to be doing math homework. But her mind was racing. What insurance money? What was Clara planning? And who was this Jackson person? When Daddy came home that evening, he was carrying flowers and a small jewelry box. "Surprise," he said, kissing Clara on the cheek. "I got you something special." Clara opened the box and gasped. Inside was a beautiful diamond ring that sparkled in the kitchen light. "Oh, Peter. It's gorgeous," Clara said, and her voice was back to being sweet and fake. "I love it so much." But Rachael noticed that Clara looked at the ring the same way she looked at the wedding magazines, like she was calculating how much money it was worth. That night, after Clara went home to her own apartment, Rachael tried to talk to Daddy. "Daddy, do you really know Clara very well?" she asked as he tucked her into bed. "What do you mean, sweetheart? I mean, do you know about her family? Her friends? Where she used to live?" Daddy smiled and smoothed Rachel's hair. "Clara and I are still getting to know each other, but that's what makes it exciting. She makes me feel alive again, Rachael. For the first time since Mama died, I feel happy." Rachael wanted to tell him about the phone call, about the insurance money, about the cold look in Clara's eyes. But looking at Daddy's happy face, she didn't know how to explain what she had heard without sounding like she was making it up. "I just want you to be careful," she said quietly. "Oh, baby girl," Daddy said, kissing her forehead. "You don't need to worry about me. Clara loves us both. She's going to take good care of our family." But as Daddy turned off the light and left her room, Rachael touched her mother's necklace and whispered, "Mama, I think Daddy's in trouble. I don't know what to do." The necklace felt warm against her skin, and for just a moment, Rachael felt like her mother was right there with her, telling her to be brave and pay attention to everything. Because Rachael was starting to understand that Clara wasn't just a mean person who didn't really love Daddy. Clara was something much worse than that. The next few days felt like a bad dream that wouldn't end. Clara was at their apartment every morning and every evening, acting like she already lived there. She moved Mama's favorite coffee mug to a different shelf and changed the channel when Rachael was watching her favorite cartoon show. "We need to start making some changes around here," Clara said one evening, looking around their small living room. "This place needs a woman's touch." But Clara's touch felt nothing like Mama's. Where Mama had made their home warm and cozy, Clara made everything feel cold and strange. Rachael decided she needed to find out more about Clara's phone calls. The next afternoon, while Daddy was at work and Clara was supposedly running errands, Rachael did something that would have gotten her in big trouble if Mama were still alive. She went through Clara's purse. Clara had left it on the kitchen counter while she went to the bathroom. Rachel's hands shook as she carefully opened the black leather bag. Inside, she found Clara's phone, some makeup, and a small notebook with numbers and names written in it. One name jumped out at her: Jackson Miller, followed by a phone number and the words "Bus Station Plan B." Rachael quickly wrote down the number on a piece of paper and stuffed it in her pocket just as Clara came back into the kitchen. "What are you doing, sweetie?" Clara asked, and her voice had that fake sweetness again. "I was just getting some water," Rachael said, her heart pounding so hard she was sure Clara could hear it. Clara looked at her purse, then back at Rachael. For a moment, her eyes went cold and suspicious. But then she smiled that fake smile again. "Well, aren't you a thirsty little girl? Why don't you go play in your room? I need to make some important phone calls." Rachael nodded and hurried to her room, but she didn't close the door all the way. She left it open just a tiny crack so she could listen. Sure enough, within 5 minutes, Clara was on the phone again. "Jackson, we might have a problem," Clara whispered. "I think the kid is getting suspicious." Rachael pressed her ear closer to the door crack. No, I don't think she heard anything important, Clara continued. But kids notice things. Maybe we should move faster. There was a long pause while Clara listened to whoever this Jackson person was. You're right, Clara said finally. 3 weeks is too long. Let's make it 2 weeks. Right after the honeymoon. Honeymoon? Rachel felt her stomach drop. Daddy had mentioned taking a honeymoon trip to the mountains after the wedding. The poison will work perfectly, Clara said, and Rachel's blood turned to ice. He'll never suspect anything. A heart attack on his honeymoon, so sad, so tragic. His poor new wife will be devastated. Poison. Clara was planning to poison Daddy. Rachel had to cover her mouth with both hands to keep from screaming. Her legs felt so weak she had to sit down on the floor. And the life insurance policy is for how much? Clara asked. $500,000? Perfect. Plus this house and his savings, will be set for life. Rachel felt like she might throw up. Clara wasn't marrying Daddy because she loved him. She was marrying him so she could kill him and take all his money. I have to go, Clara said suddenly. I think I hear something. Rachel quickly and quietly closed her door and dove onto her bed, grabbing a book and pretending to read. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the pages. A moment later, Clara knocked on her door. Rachel? I'm leaving now, sweetie. Your daddy will be home soon. Okay, Rachel managed to say, trying to keep her voice normal. After she heard the front door close, Rachel ran to her window and watched Clara drive away in her red car. Then she ran to the phone in the kitchen and dialed the one person she knew would believe her. Uncle Gabriel? It's Rachel. I need help. Something terrible is going to happen to Daddy. Uncle Gabriel had been Daddy's best friend since college. He was like the uncle Rachel had never had, always bringing her books and taking her to the zoo when Daddy was too sad after Mama died. Slow down, little bird, Uncle Gabriel said in his calm, deep voice. What's wrong? It's Clara, Rachel said, the words tumbling out fast. She doesn't really love Daddy. She's going to marry him and then poison him and take his money. I heard her talking on the phone about it. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Rachel, Uncle Gabriel said carefully, that's a very serious thing to say. Are you sure about what you heard? I'm sure. She was talking to someone named Jackson about poison and life insurance money. Uncle Gabriel, she's going to kill Daddy. Where is your father now? At work. He'll be home soon. And where is Clara? She left. She said she had errands to run. Uncle Gabriel was quiet for a moment. Rachel, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Don't say anything about this to your father yet. Sometimes grown-ups need proof before they can believe something so serious. Do you understand? But Uncle Gabriel I believe you, little bird. But we need to be smart about this. Can you write down exactly what you heard Clara say? Rachel ran to her room and got a notebook and pen. Okay, I'm ready. Write down every word you remember. And Rachel? If you hear Clara making any more phone calls, try to write those down too. But be very, very careful. If Clara really is planning something bad, we don't want her to know that you know. After Rachel hung up with Uncle Gabriel, she felt a little bit better. At least now someone believed her. But she also felt scared. If Clara found out that Rachel knew about her plan, what would Clara do to her? That evening, Daddy came home with Chinese takeout and more flowers for Clara. Where's Clara? He asked, looking around the apartment. She had to go home, Rachel said. Daddy, can I ask you something? Of course, sweetheart. Do you have life insurance? Daddy looked surprised. That's an odd question, Rachel. Why do you ask? Rachel's heart started beating fast again. She couldn't tell him the truth, not yet. We talked about it in school. About how grown-ups get insurance to take care of their families. Well, yes, I do have life insurance. After Mama died, I made sure to get a good policy so that if anything ever happened to me, you would be taken care of. How much money is it? Daddy sat down next to her on the couch. It's enough to make sure you could go to college and have a good life. But Rachel, nothing is going to happen to me. I'm young and healthy. But Rachel knew something Daddy didn't know. Something terrible was planned to happen to him, and she was the only one who could stop it. That night, after Daddy went to bed, Rachel sat by her window and looked up at the stars. She touched her mother's necklace and whispered, Mama, I don't know how to save Daddy. I'm just a kid. What am I supposed to do? The necklace felt warm against her skin, and somehow Rachel knew what her mother would tell her. Be brave, baby girl. Be smart and be brave. The next morning, Rachel woke up with a plan. She needed to find proof, real proof that grown-ups would believe. Uncle Gabriel had said she needed evidence, and that's exactly what she was going to get. Clara was coming over for lunch to discuss wedding details with Daddy. This might be Rachel's chance to search Clara's things more carefully. When Clara arrived, she was carrying a big white bag and acting more excited than usual. "I brought my wedding dress to show you both," she announced, pulling out the most beautiful white dress Rachel had ever seen. It was covered in tiny pearls and sparkled in the sunlight coming through their living room window. Daddy's eyes got misty. "Mary would have loved to see you in that dress," he said softly. For just a second, Clara's smile slipped, and Rachel saw something ugly flash across her face. But then the fake sweet smile was back. "I'm sure she would have," Clara said, but her voice sounded stiff and cold. While Daddy and Clara looked at wedding magazines on the couch, Rachel excused herself to go to the bathroom. But instead, she snuck into the hallway where Clara had left her purse and jacket. This time Rachel was more careful. She quietly unzipped Clara's purse and looked inside. There was the little notebook again, but now there were new things written in it. She saw the words, "Wedding 2 weeks," and under that, "Honeymoon Cabin Mountain View Resort." But what made Rachel's heart stop was the next line. "Poison? Ask Jackson about timing." Rachel quickly took out her phone, the old one Daddy had given her for emergencies, and took a picture of the page. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. But then she heard something that made her freeze. "Rachel? Where are you, sweetie?" Clara's voice was getting closer. Rachel quickly put everything back in the purse and ran to the bathroom, flushing the toilet just as Clara knocked on the door. "I'm in here," Rachel called out, trying to keep her voice normal. "Okay, honey. We're about to order pizza for lunch. What kind do you want?" "Cheese is fine," Rachel said, and she was proud that her voice didn't shake. During lunch, Rachel watched Clara carefully. She noticed that Clara barely ate her pizza, and she kept checking her phone like she was waiting for an important message. "I have to step outside for a minute," Clara said suddenly. "Work is calling." But Rachel had seen the name on Clara's phone screen when it buzzed. It wasn't work. It was Jackson. As soon as Clara went outside, Rachel ran to her bedroom window, which looked out onto the building's back alley. She could see Clara pacing back and forth talking on the phone. Rachel opened her window just a tiny bit so she could hear. "The wedding is in 13 days, Clara was saying. "Are you ready with everything?" Rachel couldn't hear what Jackson was saying, but she could hear Clara's responses. "Good. And you're sure this stuff won't be detected? It has to look like a natural heart attack." Rachel felt sick to her stomach, but she kept listening. "I'll put it in his coffee on our second morning at the honeymoon cabin. He always drinks coffee first thing in the morning. By the time anyone finds him, it'll be too late." Clara paused, listening to Jackson. "Don't worry about the kid. After Peter dies, I'll send her to live with relatives. I don't want her around anyway, she's too nosy for her own good." Rachel had to bite her lip to keep from crying. Clara was planning to kill Daddy and then get rid of her too. "Just make sure you have everything ready," Clara continued. "The poison, the fake ID for me, and the plane tickets. We'll be on our way to Mexico with all his money before anyone knows what happened." Mexico? So Clara was planning to take Daddy's money and run away to another country. "I have to go," Clara said. "The kid's probably wondering where I am." Rachel quickly closed her window and ran back to the kitchen, pretending to clear up the pizza boxes. "Sorry about that," Clara said, coming back inside. "Work emergency." But Rachel had heard enough. Clara wasn't just planning to poison Daddy, she had a whole escape plan with this Jackson person. They were going to take all of Daddy's money and disappear. That night, after Clara finally left and Daddy went to bed, Rachel called Uncle Gabriel again. "Uncle Gabriel, I heard her talking to Jackson on the phone today," Rachel whispered into the phone. "She's going to put poison in Daddy's coffee on their honeymoon, at some place called Mountain View Resort. And then she's going to run away to Mexico with all his money." Uncle Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. "Rachel, did you write all this down like I asked?" "Yes, and I took a picture of her notebook too. It talks about the poison and asking Jackson about timing." "Good girl. Listen, I'm going to make some phone calls tomorrow. But Rachel, this is very important. You cannot let Clara know that you suspect anything. Can you act normal around her until I figure out what to do?" "I'll try," Rachel said, but she wasn't sure how she could pretend everything was okay when she knew Clara was planning to kill her Daddy. "And Rachel? Hide that phone somewhere safe. Don't let anyone see those pictures you took." After she hung up, Rachel looked around her room for a good hiding place. Finally, she opened up her old jewelry box, the one that had been Mama's, and put the phone inside, underneath the soft pink velvet lining. Mama would keep it safe. But that night Rachel couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Clara's cold voice saying, "Don't worry about the kid. I'll send her to live with relatives." The next few days were the hardest of Rachel's life. She had to pretend to be excited about the wedding while knowing it was all a trap. She had to smile when Clara brought over more wedding decorations. She had to act happy when Daddy talked about their honeymoon plans. But the worst part was watching Daddy. He was so happy, humming songs while he cooked breakfast, buying Clara little presents, talking about their future together. He had no idea that the woman he loved was planning to murder him. 3 days before the wedding, Clara started staying overnight at their apartment more often. "Just getting used to living together," she told Daddy with that fake sweet smile. But Rachel noticed that Clara was always watching her now. And she noticed that Clara's purse was never left alone anymore. She took it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. On Thursday night, 2 days before the wedding, Rachel woke up to the sound of Clara's voice in the hallway. She crept to her bedroom door and opened it just a crack. Clara was talking on the phone again, but this time she was being much quieter. "Everything's set for Saturday," Clara whispered. "The wedding's at 2 p.m., then we leave for the cabin at 4. You'll meet me there Sunday night with everything, right?" Rachel held her breath, straining to hear. "Good. Make sure the poison is strong enough but won't show up in tests. It needs to look like he had a heart attack from all the excitement of being a new husband." Clara laughed, but it was a mean, cold laugh that made Rachel shiver. "By Monday morning, I'll be Mrs. Peter Williams, and by Monday night, I'll be a very rich widow." Rachel wanted to run to Daddy's room right then and tell him everything. But she remembered Uncle Gabriel's words about needing proof that grown-ups would believe. The next morning was Friday, one day before the wedding. Daddy was running around getting his suit pressed and picking up the wedding rings. Clara said she had errands to run and left early. This was Rachel's chance. She called Uncle Gabriel. "She's meeting Jackson at the cabin Sunday night," Rachel whispered. "And she said the poison won't show up in tests." "Rachel, I've been making some calls. I have a friend who works with the police and I think it's time we involve them. But they're going to need more than just your word. Do you think you could be very brave and try to record Clara talking to Jackson?" Rachel's heart started pounding. "You mean like, with my phone?" "Yes. If you could get her voice saying those things about poisoning your father, the police would have to take this seriously." "But what if she catches me?" Uncle Gabriel's voice was gentle but serious. "I know it's scary, little bird. But think about it this way, if we don't stop her tomorrow, your daddy won't have a chance. You're the only one who can save him." Rachel touched her mother's necklace. "Be brave," she heard Mama's voice in her mind. "Be smart and be brave." "Okay," she whispered. "I'll try." That afternoon, when Clara came back to the apartment loaded down with wedding supplies, Rachel watched for her chance. Clara was arranging flowers in the kitchen while Daddy was in the shower. Rachel saw Clara's phone buzz on the counter. When Clara glanced at the screen, her whole face changed. "I need to take this," Clara said, grabbing the phone. "It's the florist. About tomorrow." But Rachel had seen the name on the screen, Jackson. Clara stepped out onto the small balcony off the kitchen and closed the sliding door behind her. This was Rachel's chance. Rachel grabbed her hidden phone from the jewelry box and crept as close to the balcony door as she dared. She pressed record and held the phone up toward the glass door. "Are you kidding me?" Clara was saying, her voice sharp and angry. "You better not mess this up, Jackson. I've been working on this for 6 months." Rachel's hands were shaking, but she kept the phone steady. "No, listen to me," Clara continued. "Tomorrow I become Mrs. Peter Williams. Sunday morning we drive up to the cabin for our romantic honeymoon. Sunday night you meet me there with the poison. Monday morning Peter has his coffee and dies. Monday afternoon I'm calling the police, crying about how my new husband had a heart attack. And by Tuesday, we're on a plane to Mexico with his life insurance money." Rachel could hardly believe Clara was saying all this out loud. It was like she was reading from the evil plan Rachel had seen in her notebook. $2 million, Jackson. That's what this man is worth to us. So you better not disappoint me. Clara paused, listening to Jackson. "Of course the kid will be there. But like I said, after Peter dies, she's not my problem anymore. I'll drop her off with some relatives and disappear. She's too smart for her own good anyway, always watching me with those suspicious little eyes." Rachel's heart was beating so hard she was afraid Clara would hear it through the glass door. "Just make sure you bring enough poison to kill a man Peter's size. And make sure it's the kind that looks like a heart attack. I don't want any questions from the police." Rachel heard Daddy's shower turn off. She quickly stopped recording and ran back to her room, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. She had done it. She had recorded Clara talking about the murder plan. Now Uncle Gabriel and the police would have to believe her. But as she sat on her bed, holding the phone with the recording, Rachael realized something terrifying. The wedding was tomorrow. In less than 24 hours, Clara would become her stepmother. And then, just 2 days after that, Daddy would be dead. Time was running out. Rachael looked at her mother's picture on the nightstand. Mama, I got the proof. But what do I do now? How do I stop the wedding when all the guests are coming and Daddy is so happy? She touched her mother's necklace and tried to think. Uncle Gabriel had said he would call the police, but what if they didn't believe the recording? What if they said it wasn't clear enough, or that Rachael might have made it up? What if tomorrow she had to stand up in front of all those people at the wedding and tell them that the bride was planning to murder the groom? Rachael had never felt so scared and so alone in her whole life. But she also knew one thing for certain. She was not going to let Clara kill her daddy. No matter what she had to do, no matter how scared she was, she would find a way to stop that wedding. She just hoped she was brave enough when the time came. That evening, Uncle Gabriel called while Daddy and Clara were busy addressing last-minute wedding invitations at the kitchen table. I can't talk long, Rachael whispered into her phone from her bedroom. They're right outside. Did you get the recording? Yes. She said everything about the poison, about Mexico, about the life insurance money. She even said she was going to get rid of me after Daddy dies. Uncle Gabriel was quiet for a moment. Rachael, I spoke to my friend Detective Martinez today. She wants to hear that recording. Can you meet me early tomorrow morning before the wedding preparations start? But the wedding starts at noon, and Clara will be here getting ready at like 8 in the morning. What time does your father usually go out for his Saturday morning jog? Rachael thought for a moment. He leaves at 7 and he's gone for about an hour. Perfect. I'll pick you up at 7:15. We'll go to the police station, let them hear the recording, and hopefully they can stop this whole thing before the wedding even starts. After Uncle Gabriel hung up, Rachael felt a tiny bit of hope. Maybe she wouldn't have to stand up in front of all those people at the wedding after all. Maybe the police would arrest Clara in the morning and that would be the end of it. But that hope didn't last long. At dinner, Clara was acting stranger than usual. She kept looking at Rachael with narrow, suspicious eyes. And when Daddy went to get dessert from the kitchen, Clara leaned across the table toward Rachael. You've been very quiet lately, Clara said, her voice soft but somehow threatening. Is everything okay? I'm fine, Rachael said, trying to keep her voice steady. You know, I noticed you've been spending a lot of time by your bedroom window lately. And I could have sworn I heard you on the phone last night after bedtime. Rachel's heart started racing. I was just looking at the stars. And I wasn't on the phone. Clara smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. Of course not. You're such a good girl, Rachael. I'm sure you wouldn't do anything to upset your daddy on his wedding day. The way Clara said it made Rachael feel cold all over. It sounded like a warning. That night, Rachael couldn't sleep at all. Every time she heard a noise in the apartment, she was afraid Clara was coming to her room. She kept the phone with the recording clutched in her hand under her pillow, afraid that somehow Clara would find it and destroy it. When her alarm clock showed 6:30 a.m., Rachael got dressed quietly and waited by her bedroom door, listening for Daddy's morning routine. At exactly 7 o'clock, she heard him getting his running shoes from the closet. I'm going for my jog, he called out. Clara, you can start getting ready whenever you want. Rachael, try to help Clara with whatever she needs, okay? Of course, darling, Clara called back from the bathroom. Have a good run. As soon as Daddy left, Rachael grabbed her jacket and her phone. She had to get out of the apartment and meet Uncle Gabriel before Clara realized what she was doing. But as she reached for the front door handle, Clara appeared in the hallway behind her. Going somewhere? Clara asked. Rachel's mouth went dry. I wanted to get some fresh air. Before the wedding. In your jacket? With your phone? Clara's eyes were cold and scary now. Rachael, I think you and I need to have a little talk. Clara stepped closer, and Rachael could smell her perfume, the same perfume that had seemed so nice when Clara first started dating Daddy, but now it made Rachael feel sick. I think you've been listening to conversations you shouldn't be listening to, Clara said quietly. I think you've been sticking your little nose where it doesn't belong. Rachael backed against the front door. I don't know what you mean. Oh, I think you do. Clara reached out and grabbed Rachel's arm, not hard enough to hurt but firm enough to scare her. Give me your phone. Why? Because I said so. And because after today I'm going to be your mother. So you better start learning to do what I tell you. Rachael clutched the phone tighter. If Clara got the recording, there would be no proof. The police wouldn't believe her. And Daddy would die on his honeymoon. I said give it to me. Clara's grip on Rachel's arm got tighter. Just then there was a knock on the front door behind Rachel. Rachel? It's Uncle Gabriel. Are you ready? Clara's face went white, then red with anger. She let go of Rachel's arm and stepped back. Don't you dare open that door, Clara whispered. But Rachel was already turning the handle. Uncle Gabriel, she called out, pulling the door open quickly and running to him. Uncle Gabriel took one look at Rachel's scared face and Clara standing in the hallway looking furious, and immediately understood that something was very wrong. Hello, Clara, he said calmly, putting a protective arm around Rachel. I hope you don't mind, but I promised to take Rachel out for breakfast before the wedding. Father-daughter bonding time, you know? Actually, I do mind, Clara said, but she was trying to make her voice sound normal again. Rachel needs to stay here and help me get ready. There's a lot to do. I'm sure there is. But Peter specifically asked me to take care of Rachel this morning so you could focus on getting beautiful for your big day. Uncle Gabriel's voice was friendly, but Rachel could tell he was watching Clara very carefully. Clara looked like she wanted to argue, but she couldn't think of a good reason to stop them without sounding suspicious. Fine, she said finally. But don't keep her too long. I do need her help. Of course. We'll be back in plenty of time. As soon as they got in Uncle Gabriel's car, Rachel started crying. She knows, Rachel sobbed. She knows I heard her talking to Jackson. She tried to take my phone. Uncle Gabriel, what if she calls Jackson right now and tells him to cancel everything? What if she just runs away and we never catch her? Hey, Uncle Gabriel said gently, handing her a tissue. Take a deep breath. You did exactly the right thing. And now we're going to make sure the police hear that recording. But as they drove toward the police station, Rachel kept looking back at her apartment building, wondering what Clara was doing. Was she packing her bags to run away? Was she calling Jackson to change their plans? Or was she planning something even worse? Uncle Gabriel, Rachel said quietly, what if the police don't believe us? What if they say we don't have enough proof? Uncle Gabriel was quiet for a moment. Then we'll have to stop that wedding ourselves. How? I don't know yet, little bird. But your daddy is not going to marry that woman. I promise you that. At the police station, Detective Martinez was a kind woman with short gray hair and gentle eyes. She listened carefully as Rachel played the recording, taking notes the whole time. When the recording ended, Detective Martinez was quiet for a long moment. This is very serious, she said finally. But Rachel, I need you to understand something. What we have here is a recording of someone talking about a crime they're planning to commit. But they haven't actually committed it yet. But she's going to kill my daddy, Rachel said, her voice small and scared. I believe you, Detective Martinez said. And we're going to do everything we can to stop that from happening. But legally it's complicated. We need more evidence before we can make an arrest. Uncle Gabriel leaned forward. What kind of evidence? Well, we need to find this Jackson person. We need to find the poison. We need proof that Clara isn't who she says she is. Right now, all we have is a recording that could be argued to be taken out of context. Rachel felt her heart sinking. So you're not going to stop the wedding? I'm going to send officers to keep an eye on things, Detective Martinez said. And we're going to start investigating Clara's background immediately. But Rachel, if Clara really is planning what you think she's planning, she's not going to do anything at the wedding. According to your recording, she's planning to wait until the honeymoon. But what if she gets scared and runs away? What if she realizes I know and she just disappears? Detective Martinez exchanged a look with Uncle Gabriel. That's a risk we have to take. But Rachel, I want you to promise me something. If you see or hear anything else suspicious today, you call me immediately. And whatever happens, do not try to handle this yourself. Do you understand? Rachel nodded, but inside she felt desperate. The police weren't going to stop the wedding. Clara was going to become her stepmother in just a few hours, and then they would go on their honeymoon, and then Daddy would drink his poison coffee and die. On the drive back home, Uncle Gabriel was very quiet. What are we going to do? Rachel asked. I'm thinking, Uncle Gabriel said. Detective Martinez is right that they need more evidence. But I'm also not willing to just sit back and hope they find it in time. When they got back to the apartment, Clara was in full wedding preparation mode. She had taken over the living room with her dress, shoes, makeup, and hair supplies. She looked up when Rachel and Uncle Gabriel walked in, and Rachel saw that fake sweet smile again. There you are. I was starting to worry. How was breakfast? It was nice, Rachel said quietly. Good. Well, your father is back from his run and he's getting ready in the bedroom. And I really do need your help now, sweetie. Uncle Gabriel squeezed Rachel's shoulder. "I'll see you at the church," he said quietly. "Remember what I told you." For the next 3 hours, Rachel had to help Clara get ready for the wedding. She had to zip up Clara's beautiful white dress. She had to hold Clara's jewelry while she decided which earrings to wear. She had to watch Clara put on makeup and fix her hair until she looked like a perfect bride. And the whole time, all Rachel could think about was Clara's voice on that recording. Monday morning, Peter has his coffee and dies. "You're very quiet today," Clara said as she put on her lipstick. "Are you excited about the wedding?" "Yes," Rachel lied. "Good. Because after today we're going to be a real family. And Rachel, I want you to know that I'm going to take very good care of your father. He's going to be very, very happy." The way Clara said it made Rachel feel sick. At 11:30, the car service arrived to take them to the church. Daddy looked handsome in his black tuxedo, and Clara looked beautiful in her white dress. They looked like the perfect happy couple. If only Daddy knew what Rachel knew. The church was decorated with white roses and baby's breath. All of Daddy's friends and family were there, dressed in their best clothes, smiling and taking pictures. Everyone was so happy and excited. Rachel sat in the front row, wearing her best dress and her mother's necklace. Uncle Gabriel sat next to her, and she could tell he was watching everything very carefully. As the wedding march began to play and Clara walked down the aisle on her father's arm, Rachel felt like she might throw up. Everyone was smiling and some people were even crying happy tears. But all Rachel could think about was that in just a few minutes, Clara would be Mrs. Peter Williams. And then they would drive to the mountain cabin. And then Jackson would bring the poison. And then, "Dearly beloved," the pastor began, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Peter and Clara in holy matrimony." Rachel gripped Uncle Gabriel's hand. Her mother's necklace felt warm against her chest. "Marriage is a sacred commitment," the pastor continued. "It is built on trust, honesty, and love." Trust, honesty, love. Clara didn't have any of those things. She had lies and poison and plans to steal Daddy's money. If anyone has any reason why these two should not be married, speak now or forever hold your peace. The church was completely silent. This was it. This was Rachel's moment. But her voice wouldn't work. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her heart was beating so fast and so loud that she was sure everyone in the church could hear it. "Very well then," the pastor said, starting to move on. "Wait." The word came out much louder than Rachel had intended. Everyone in the church turned to look at her. Daddy's face was shocked and confused. Clara's face went completely white, then red with anger. Rachel stood up on shaky legs. She touched her mother's necklace for courage. "Daddy," she said, her voice trembling but getting stronger, "please don't marry her." The church erupted in surprised whispers and gasps. "Rachel," Daddy said, his voice gentle but confused. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" Rachel looked at all the faces staring at her. She saw Uncle Gabriel nodding encouragingly. She saw Detective Martinez, who had slipped into the back of the church, watching intently. And she saw Clara looking at her with pure hatred in her eyes. "Daddy," Rachel said louder now. "She wants to kill you." The church fell completely silent. It was so quiet that Rachel could hear her own heartbeat and the sound of someone's phone buzzing in the back row. Daddy's face went from confused to shocked to hurt. "Rachel, sweetheart, what are you saying?" "Peter, she's just upset," Clara said quickly, her voice shaking slightly. "She's been acting strange all week. I think she's just having trouble accepting that you're remarrying." But Rachel could see that Clara's hands were trembling. She was scared. "No, Daddy, listen to me," Rachel said, stepping into the aisle. "I heard her talking on the phone. She's planning to poison your coffee on your honeymoon. She wants your life insurance money." The guests started murmuring louder now. Someone gasped. Rachel heard a woman whisper, "Oh my God." "That's ridiculous," Clara said, but her voice was getting higher and more panicked. "Peter, she's obviously having some kind of breakdown. Maybe we should postpone the wedding and get her some help." "I'm not having a breakdown," Rachel said, pulling out her phone. "I recorded her talking to someone named Jackson. They have it all planned out. She's going to put poison in your coffee on Monday morning at the Mountain View Resort cabin, and then she's going to run away to Mexico with Jackson." Daddy was staring at Rachel like he'd never seen her before. "Rachel, those are very serious accusations." "Play it," Uncle Gabriel said, standing up beside Rachel. "Play the recording, little bird." Clara's face went completely white. "You can't seriously be listening to this child's fantasies." "Play it, Rachel," Detective Martinez called out from the back of the church, walking down the aisle. "Let everyone hear what you recorded." Now Clara looked terrified. Her eyes darted around the church like she was looking for an escape route. With shaking fingers, Rachael found the recording on her phone and pressed play. Clara's voice filled the church through the speaker. Tomorrow I become Mrs. Peter Williams. Sunday morning we drive up to the cabin for our romantic honeymoon. Sunday night you meet me there with the poison. Monday morning Peter has his coffee and dies. Monday afternoon I'm calling the police, crying about how my new husband had a heart attack. The church erupted. People were gasping and talking and standing up to get a better look. Rachael heard someone say, "Call the police," and someone else say, "I can't believe this." Daddy was staring at Clara with an expression Rachael had never seen before. It was like he was looking at a complete stranger. "Clara," he said quietly, his voice barely audible over the noise in the church. "Tell me this isn't real. Tell me there's some explanation." But Clara wasn't looking at Daddy anymore. She was backing away from him toward the side door of the church. "This is insane," she said, but her voice was shrill now. "You're going to believe a 9-year-old over me? Peter, I love you. I would never hurt you. $2 million, Jackson. That's what this man is worth to us," came Clara's voice from the phone recording. That's when Clara snapped. "You little brat," she screamed at Rachael, her face twisted with rage. "You've ruined everything. Do you have any idea of what you just did to me?" The church went completely silent again. Everyone was staring at Clara in shock. "Clara," Daddy said, his voice broken. "What are you talking about?" "What I'm talking about," Clara shouted. "Do you think I actually enjoyed pretending to love you? Pretending to care about your stupid dead wife and your annoying kid?" Rachael saw her daddy's face crumple like someone had hit him. All the happiness and love she'd seen there for months just disappeared. "And you?" Clara whirled around to face Rachael again. "I'll make sure you regret this." She took a step toward Rachael, her face full of anger. That's when Detective Martinez stepped between them. "That's enough," Detective Martinez said firmly. "Clara Morrison, or whatever your real name is, you're under arrest." "You can't arrest me," Clara protested. "I haven't actually done anything. It was just talk." "Conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and threatening a minor," Detective Martinez said, pulling out handcuffs. "That's plenty to start with." 2 more police officers appeared at the back of the church and started walking down the aisle. Clara looked around wildly, then suddenly bolted for the side door of the church. But Uncle Gabriel was ready. He stepped into the aisle and blocked her path. "I don't think so," he said calmly. Clara tried to push past him, but one of the police officers caught up to her and grabbed her arm. "Let go of me," Clara screamed, fighting against the handcuffs. "This is all that kid's fault. She's the one who ruined everything." As the police led Clara away, still screaming and protesting, the church remained eerily quiet. Everyone was staring at the altar where Daddy stood alone in his tuxedo, looking lost and broken. Rachael ran to him and threw her arms around his waist. "I'm sorry, Daddy," she whispered, starting to cry. "I'm so sorry I ruined your wedding. But I couldn't let her hurt you." Daddy wrapped his arms around her and held her tight. She could feel him shaking. "You saved my life," he whispered into her hair. "Oh, sweetheart, you saved my life. I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you. I'm so sorry I almost—" He couldn't finish the sentence, but Rachael knew what he meant. He almost died. If she hadn't been brave enough to speak up, he would have gone on that honeymoon and never come home. "What happens now?" Rachael asked, looking up at her father's face. Before Daddy could answer, Detective Martinez approached them. "We're going to need you both to come to the station to give official statements," she said gently. "And Mr. Williams, we're going to need to search that cabin at Mountain View Resort. If this Jackson person is really planning to meet Clara there tomorrow night, we want to be ready for him." Daddy nodded, but he looked dazed, like he couldn't quite process what had just happened. "Is Clara really not Clara?" Rachael asked Detective Martinez. "We're going to find out," Detective Martinez said. "But based on what we heard today, I suspect Clara Morrison isn't her real name. We think she and this Jackson person might be part of a larger operation that targets wealthy widowers." Rachael felt sick thinking about it. Clara had never loved Daddy at all. She'd just been pretending, planning to kill him the whole time. As they walked out of the church, past all the shocked wedding guests, Rachael saw the beautiful white decorations and the flowers and the wedding cake that would never be cut. She felt terrible for Daddy. This was supposed to be the happiest day of his life, and instead, it had turned into a nightmare. But at least he was alive. At least Clara hadn't succeeded in her terrible plan. "Uncle Gabriel," Rachael said as they got into Detective Martinez's car. "What if there are other women like Clara out there? What if she's done this before?" That's exactly what we're going to find out, Detective Martinez said. Rachel, what you did today was incredibly brave. You might have saved more than just your father's life. At the police station, Rachel had to tell her story over and over again. She told Detective Martinez everything, about the first time she heard Clara on the phone, about finding the notebook in Clara's purse, about Uncle Gabriel helping her, and about the recording she made. While Rachel was giving her statement, other police officers were interviewing the wedding guests and searching Clara's apartment. Detective Martinez kept getting phone calls with updates. We found several fake IDs in her bedroom, Detective Martinez told Daddy and Rachel after one call. Clara Morrison, Sarah Adams, Linda Parker, she's been using different names. And we found plane tickets to Mexico for tomorrow morning. So she really was planning to run away, Daddy said quietly. He had barely spoken since they left the church. He still looked shocked and hurt. There's more, Detective Martinez continued. We contacted the Mountain View Resort. Someone named Jack Anderson made a reservation for tonight, same last initial as Jackson. We think that's our guy. Are you going to arrest him? Rachel asked. We're sending officers up there right now. With any luck, we'll have him in custody by tonight. A few hours later, Detective Martinez came back with more news. We got him, she said. Jack Anderson, real name Jackson Ellis, was at the cabin with a bag full of poison and fake identification documents. He confessed to everything when he realized Clara had been arrested. Was this their first time doing something like this? Uncle Gabriel asked. Detective Martinez shook her head grimly. Jackson told us they'd been running this con for 3 years. They've targeted at least 6 other men across 3 different states. Daddy looked up sharply. Other men? What happened to them? 2 of them died under suspicious circumstances that were ruled natural heart attacks at the time. The others broke off their engagements with Clara, or Sarah. Before it got to the wedding stage, Jackson said Clara would usually disappear if she thought the mark was getting suspicious. Rachel felt sick. Clara and Jackson had actually killed people. Real people with families who loved them. So if I hadn't stopped the wedding? Daddy couldn't finish the sentence. You'd probably be dead by Tuesday, Detective Martinez said bluntly but kindly. Your daughter saved your life, Mr. Williams. And she probably prevented Clara and Jackson from killing again. When they finally got home that evening, the apartment felt different. All of Clara's things were gone. The police had taken them as evidence. The wedding decorations that had been scattered around the living room were gone too. Uncle Gabriel had come by earlier and cleaned everything up. Daddy sat on the couch and put his head in his hands. I feel so stupid, he said. How did I not see it? How did a 9-year-old figure out what I completely missed? Rachel sat down next to him. Because you loved her, Daddy. Or you thought you loved her. She was really good at pretending. But you knew something was wrong from the beginning, didn't you? Rachel nodded. She never felt right to me. Like when she smiled, it didn't reach her eyes. And she didn't really seem to care about Mama or about me. She was just pretending to care about everything. Daddy pulled Rachel into a hug. I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you. I'm so sorry I made you feel like you had to handle this all by yourself. But I wasn't by myself, Rachel said. Uncle Gabriel helped me. And Mama helped me too. Mama? Rachel touched her mother's necklace. I could feel her telling me to be brave. And when I was scared, I would think about what Mama would want me to do. Daddy's eyes filled with tears. Your Mama would be so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. They ordered pizza for dinner and watched cartoons, but Rachel could tell Daddy was still very sad. She knew it wasn't just about Clara trying to kill him, it was about finding out that someone he thought loved him had been lying to him the whole time. Daddy? Rachel said as they were getting ready for bed. Are you going to be okay? Daddy sat on the edge of her bed. I think so. It's going to take some time to get over this. I feel embarrassed and hurt and, well, pretty scared about what almost happened. But I'm also grateful. So grateful that I have such a smart, brave daughter who loves me enough to save my life. I'll always protect you, Daddy. Just like you protect me. I know you will, sweetheart. But from now on, if you ever feel worried about anything at all, you come to me right away, okay? I promise I'll listen. That night, for the first time in weeks, Rachel slept peacefully. Clara was in jail. Jackson was in jail. Daddy was safe. The nightmare was over. But when she woke up the next morning, Daddy was sitting at the kitchen table with the newspaper and a very serious expression on his face. What's wrong? Rachel asked, suddenly worried again. Look at this, Daddy said, showing her the front page of the newspaper. The headline read, Local girl stops wedding, saves father from murder plot. There was a big picture of the church with police cars outside, and a smaller picture of Clara being led away in handcuffs. "We're in the newspaper?" Rachel asked, her eyes wide. "We're not just in the newspaper," Daddy said. "Detective Martinez called this morning. The story is on the news too. And apparently, some of the families of Clara and Jackson's other victims want to meet with us." "Why?" "To thank you," Daddy said quietly. "Rachel, because of what you did, the police were able to reopen the investigations into those two men who died. The families might finally get justice for their loved ones." Rachel felt overwhelmed. She had just been trying to save her daddy. She hadn't thought about all the other people Clara and Jackson had hurt. "There's something else," Daddy continued. "Detective Martinez said there might be more people involved in this. Clara and Jackson might have been part of a bigger group that targets lonely people. The FBI wants to interview us too." "The FBI?" Rachel's eyes got even wider. "It's nothing scary," Daddy said quickly. "They just want to understand how Clara operated so they can catch other people who might be doing the same thing." Just then the phone rang. Daddy answered it and talked quietly for a few minutes before hanging up. "Who was that?" Rachel asked. "A reporter from Channel 7 News. They want to do an interview with us." Rachel thought about this. "Do we have to?" "No, we don't have to do anything we don't want to do. But Rachel, I think your story could help other people. There might be other kids out there who notice something wrong with a parent's boyfriend or girlfriend but don't know what to do about it." Rachel touched her mother's necklace and thought about what Mama would want her to do. Maybe sharing her story could help protect other families. "Okay," she said. "But can Uncle Gabriel be there too?" "Of course," Daddy said. "Uncle Gabriel will always be there when you need him. Just like you were there when I needed you." Over the next few weeks, Rachel and Daddy did several interviews. They talked to newspaper reporters, television news shows, and even the FBI. Each time, Rachel told her story about trusting her instincts and being brave enough to speak up when something felt wrong. The interviews were scary at first, but Rachel felt proud when Detective Martinez told her that 3 more families had come forward with similar stories after seeing her on the news. The FBI was now investigating what they called a Black Widow ring, a group of people who targeted lonely widowers and widows to steal their money. "Your courage started something really important," Detective Martinez told her during one of their meetings. "We think we're going to be able to prevent a lot of other families from going through what you and your father almost went through." 6 weeks after the wedding that never happened, Daddy and Rachel were sitting by the river on a sunny Saturday afternoon, sharing sandwiches and watching the ducks swim by. "You know what I realized?" Daddy said, throwing pieces of bread to the ducks. "What?" "I spent so much time missing Mama and feeling lonely that I forgot how perfect our family already was. Just you and me." Rachel smiled and leaned against his shoulder. "We're a pretty good team." "The best team," Daddy agreed. "And I promise you, if I ever decide to date anyone again, which won't be for a very long time, I'm going to listen to you from the very beginning. Your instincts are better than mine." "Deal?" Rachel said, giggling. Just then Daddy's phone buzzed with a text message. He looked at it and smiled. "Good news," he said. "Detective Martinez says Clara, whose real name is Sarah Adams, just pled guilty to conspiracy to commit murder. She's going to prison for 25 years. And Jackson got 30 years. So they can't hurt anyone else?" "Never again," Daddy said firmly. "Thanks to you." That afternoon when they got home, Rachel went to her room and sat down at her desk. She took out a piece of paper and started drawing, something she hadn't done much of since Mama died. She drew a picture of herself and Daddy sitting by the river, with the sun shining down on them and the ducks swimming nearby. At the top of the picture, she drew a small heart with Mama written inside it, watching over them like a guardian angel. When she was finished, she pinned the drawing to her wall, right next to the old picture of Mama. Then she touched her mother's necklace and whispered, "Thank you for helping me be brave, Mama. I saved Daddy just like you would have wanted me to." A year later, Rachel was helping Daddy make pancakes for breakfast when the phone rang. It was Detective Martinez with news that made them both smile. "The FBI just arrested the last member of the Black Widow ring," Detective Martinez told them. "A woman in California who was targeting a widower with 2 young children. The children noticed something was off about her, just like you did, Rachel, and they told their school counselor. The counselor had seen your story on the news and knew to take it seriously." After Daddy hung up, he looked at Rachel with tears in his eyes. "Do you realize what this means?" he said. "Those children learned from your example. You didn't just save my life, you taught other kids how to protect their families too." Rachel felt warm all over, like she was wrapped in one of Mama's hugs. That night, as Daddy tucked her into bed, Rachel looked at the drawing on her wall and at Mama's picture smiling down at her. "Daddy?" she said sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart. I think Mama would be proud of our little family." "I think she would be too," Daddy said, kissing her forehead. "I think she would be very, very proud of both of us." As Rachel drifted off to sleep, wearing her mother's necklace and feeling safe and loved, she knew that sometimes the most important thing a person can do is trust their heart and find the courage to speak up for the people they love. And sometimes, even when you're just 9 years old, you can be the hero your family needs. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, and comment on the lessons you've learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in my next video.